At first, no one notices it, not even you. It starts with the way you stand at the window longer than before, not really watching anything specific. You just stand there, quietly. You tell yourself you're waiting for the kettle to boil or checking if the mail's come. But really, something deeper has taken root, and it doesn't make a sound. After 65, something peculiar happens. You don't shout your thoughts anymore. You don't race to answer the phone or explain your point. There's a hush that settles over your habits, as if your spirit has switched from broadcast to whisper. And most people miss what those whispers are trying to say. Like the first habit that slips in so gently, you'd swear it's always been there. You begin rereading books, old ones you already know how they end. To some, it might seem like laziness or forgetfulness, but it's not. It's the comfort of certainty. The world keeps changing, too fast, too loud. But when you return to a familiar page, the words don't betray you. You already know who lives, who dies, who gets the girl or saves the village. In a life filled with unknowns, aches, appointments, and lost keys, that kind of certainty is golden. Then comes the second habit, just as quiet, just as easy to ignore. You start turning down invitations, not always, just more often. There was a time you'd show up to every gathering, big or small. But now, some part of you checks the invite and thinks, I'm tired already. It's not that you don't like people anymore. It's that your time feels sacred. You've earned the right to be choosy with your energy. And let's be honest, after 65, peace starts tasting better than popularity. Third, you begin fixing little things around the house that no one else notices. The loose cabinet hinge, the crooked picture frame, the squeaky door. Not because you suddenly care more about home maintenance, but because it gives your hands purpose and your mind a rhythm. There's a quiet dignity in taking care of your space, especially when the world outside feels increasingly out of your control. In these small repairs, you find something resembling order. A screw tightens and your heartbeat steadies. Then one day, a fourth habit slips in. You stop answering every phone call. The ringing no longer feels urgent. You glance at the name, let it go to voicemail, and return when you're ready. Or not at all. This one confuses people. They think you're ignoring them, growing cold. But really, it's about boundaries. You've learned the hard way that not every conversation needs to be had. Some people bring chaos, not comfort. And at your age, comfort is not a luxury. It's a survival tool. The fifth habit is the most misunderstood. You start talking to yourself, not just muttering under your breath, but full conversations, in the mirror, in the garden, while making tea. You laugh at your own jokes and argue with the news anchor like he's in the room. People might think it's senility sneaking in, but it's not. It's clarity. After decades of being talked over, dismissed, or unheard, you become your own best audience. Talking to yourself is no longer a sign of loneliness. It's a sign of wisdom. You've realized that your voice still matters, even if no one else is listening. And finally, the sixth habit. You start going for walks, long, aimless ones. No destination, no reason. Just the feel of your feet hitting the ground, the air in your lungs, the trees swaying above. Some folks think it's just exercise or a way to pass time. But it's not. It's meditation in motion. It's how you process everything you've seen, everything you've felt, everything you've lost. Every step is a quiet reckoning, and no one knows what those walks have saved you from. Each of these habits might seem like nothing on the surface, harmless quirks, but they carry messages if you're willing to listen. They're not signs of decline. They're signs of awakening. Because after 65, the world doesn't get quieter. You do. And in that silence, something powerful grows. There's something peculiar about silence after 65. It's not the absence of sound. It's the presence of meaning. Every quiet act, every subtle habit, carries the weight of decades. A private language spoken only by those who've lived long enough to understand what it truly costs to make noise. Let's go back to those long walks. You don't tell anyone what they really mean. On the surface, it's just a stroll. But deep down, it's you reclaiming space in a world that slowly tried to shrink you. The moment you leave your front door, it's a declaration. I still have somewhere to go, even if that somewhere is simply forward. Sometimes you walk past your old neighborhood, remembering who lived in which house, who's no longer here. Sometimes it hits you mid-stride. The silence that follows a friend's absence is louder than anything. That's when the next layer of habit appears. You start noticing the small details no one else sees. A cat on a windowsill. A boy helping his grandmother with groceries. A flower blooming between two cracks in the pavement. You see it all. Because your mind isn't rushing anymore. You've learned that speed is overrated. When you slow down, the world reveals secrets. Beautiful ones, painful ones, necessary ones. And then comes the quiet rearranging. This is the seventh silent habit, hiding in plain sight. You begin giving things away, slowly, casually. A book to a niece, a watch to your son, a necklace to a friend. Not because you've given up, but because you're curating your legacy. You know now that possessions are just placeholders. What matters is who they go to and what they'll remember. You're not downsizing. You're storytelling without saying a word. Another habit creeps in, unnoticed by most. You spend more time just sitting, not watching TV, not reading, just sitting, in a chair, on the porch, in the sun. You let the day unfold around you. People think you're bored or lazy. But what they don't see is the quiet work happening inside. You're sorting memories, untangling regrets, replaying old joys like treasured records. There's wisdom in stillness, and you've finally stopped running from your own company. Then one day, you realize something even stranger. You've stopped correcting people. You used to jump in, "That's not what I said," or, "Actually, it happened this way." But now, you just smile. Let them be wrong. Let them talk. You've learned that peace is more valuable than proving a point. This is one of the hardest habits to earn. Letting go of the need to be right. Because it means you've accepted that some battles just aren't worth your breath anymore. And somewhere between all of this, you start forgiving. Not in a grand, dramatic way, but quietly. You forgive people who never apologized. Forgive friends who disappeared. Family who disappointed. Even yourself. Especially yourself. You start releasing weight you didn't even realize you were carrying. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. That's the real meaning of aging well. It's not how many steps you take or how healthy your blood pressure is. It's how much bitterness you can leave behind. You also develop the habit of listening more. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you've learned the power of hearing someone fully. You nod at the right moments, ask questions no one else thinks to ask. People open up to you without knowing why. It's because you radiate something they can't find anywhere else. Presence. Real presence. The kind that doesn't check a phone or look for the next thing to say. You've become a witness, and that is a rare gift. Eventually, you start hiding a little bit of yourself again. Not out of fear or shame, but as a form of preservation. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. You've seen what happens when you overshare, when you trust too fast. So you keep some thoughts for yourself, a private sanctuary of opinions, dreams, memories that only you visit. And that's okay. There's strength in being a little mysterious, even after 65. Finally, and perhaps most beautifully, you start laughing more. Not big theatrical laughs, but quiet chuckles, little grins. You find humor in odd places, your crooked toes, the sound your knees make when you sit, the way your cat ignores you like you're the guest. You laugh at the absurdity of aging, not because it's easy, but because you've learned that if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And you've cried enough already. So what do these quiet habits really mean? They mean you've survived. They mean you've grown. They mean you've stopped performing and started living. Not loudly, but deeply. And here's the final secret. Most people spend their whole lives trying to be heard. But after 65, you realize the real treasure is finally learning how to listen, especially to yourself. If this one made you nod even once, it might be time to hit that subscribe button. And if you're feeling extra brave, drop your city in the comments so we know where these quiet habits are hiding around the world. Who knows? Maybe someone else is walking their neighborhood right now, thinking the same things you are.